I grew up in a quiet rural town where nights were usually dead silent. One summer evening around midnight, I was sitting in my living room with the window cracked open to let in the cool breeze. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps on my front porch. At first I thought maybe it was an animal, but these were heavy, human-like. They creaked across the wooden boards as if someone was pacing back and forth. I froze. My parents were asleep upstairs and I didn't want to wake them unless I was sure. I muted the TV and sat there listening. The steps moved closer to the window. I could hear the wood groaning under the weight, and then silence. I held my breath. Seconds felt like hours. Then came the sound of fingernails, or something sharp, scraping against the glass. A long, slow drag across the window pane. I finally bolted upstairs and woke my dad. He came down with a baseball bat, but by the time we checked, the porch was empty. Nothing was there. The next morning, though, when the sun came up, we saw it. On the glass of the living room window were streaks. Long, dirty handprints, smudged across as if someone had been pressing their face against it, looking in. When I was 17, I used to sneak out late at night to hang out with my best friend. We lived near a patch of woods, and one night, as we sat under a streetlight, we heard whistling. It was faint at first, but it grew louder. A slow, repetitive tune. We both turned toward the woods, but there was nothing there. The sound seemed to echo between the trees, circling us. At first, we thought maybe it was just some late-night jogger or a neighbor, but then the whistling stopped, and we heard it again, much closer this time, almost behind us. My friend whispered, "Let's go." We hurried down the road, but no matter how fast we walked, the whistling followed. Sometimes ahead, sometimes behind, like someone was toying with us. Finally, we sprinted back to my house and locked the doors. For the rest of the night, I kept hearing faint whistling outside my window, as if whoever it was had followed us home. Even now, years later, I can't hear someone casually whistling without getting chills. This happened to me when I was in college. I was renting a small house with 2 other roommates. One night, I stayed up late cramming for an exam, and around 2 a.m., I heard knocking at the back door. At first, I thought maybe one of my roommates had forgotten their key. But when I checked, both of them were asleep in their rooms. The knocking grew louder, more urgent. It wasn't just knocking anymore. It was pounding. I crept to the kitchen, trying not to make a sound, and looked through the blinds. I couldn't see anyone, but I felt eyes on me. Then, the pounding stopped. For a few minutes, it was dead quiet. I almost convinced myself it was just my imagination. Then suddenly, a voice whispered through the crack of the door, "Let me in." I stumbled backward, heart racing. My roommates woke up from the noise, and we all checked the yard together. No one was there. But in the morning, we found fresh footprints in the mud leading up to the back door. They circled the house, twice. I live in a suburban neighborhood where it's usually peaceful at night. One summer, I was up late reading in my bedroom when I heard a voice outside in the backyard. It sounded like a man calling out. At first, I thought maybe it was a neighbor, but the words didn't make sense. It was garbled, almost like chanting. I turned off my light and peeked through the blinds. There was no one in sight. But then, the voice grew louder, closer, as if the person was right under my window. It was a deep, raspy voice, repeating the same phrase over and over again. My dog, who usually barked at everything, was cowering under the bed, whining. I called my dad into the room, but by the time he came, the voice had stopped. We searched the yard with flashlights, but there was no one there. The next morning, though, we found something strange in the grass, a small pile of rocks stacked neatly in a circle, right below my bedroom window. This story happened on a camping trip with 2 friends. We set up our tent deep in the woods and settled in for the night. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of heavy breathing. It wasn't one of my friends. The sound was coming from just outside the tent wall. At first, I thought maybe it was an animal, but the breathing was slow and steady, like a person's. I nudged my friends awake, and we all sat there in silence, listening. Then we heard footsteps circling the tent, leaves crunching under boots. The breathing grew louder, closer, until it felt like someone was standing right over us. We didn't dare move. After what felt like an hour, the sounds stopped. None of us slept the rest of the night. When the sun rose, we stepped outside to check. In the dirt around the tent were clear footprints. Human footprints. Bare feet. They circled our tent several times in the night. Outro. Those were 5 terrifying true stories of things heard outside at night. Which story scared you the most? Comment below and subscribe for more true horror stories.